Hello everyone, today we're going to take a look at the Beretta 92. So this is one of the first guns that I first got when I moved out of New York City some 15 plus years ago. It's one of the few guns that I also keep in its original case because it just looks so good. Okay, normally I take the cases out when I put them in the safe because they take up space, but this is a commemorative Marine version that I had bought. I think the main reason I bought this because, like I said, I had just moved out of New York City. I mean, they basically sold me on the looks, on the hot red color, which is the reason why I got this. So I did mention this gun a few weeks ago. I said, you know what, let me take it out. I want to do a little bit more shooting with it, and I figured we'd talk a little bit more about this, you know, in detail. Right, so it comes with a 15-round magazine, and you can get aftermarkets with 18 rounds. So I have one of those. The 18 rounders are nice because they got holes, you know, for you know, all the way down, whereas the factory 15 rounders, they just got a hole in the 5, the 10, and the 15 round position. When you fill up the magazine, right, on the 15 round, you're gonna see like a half moon position, right? If you go more than that, now you got 16 rounds in there, and that can cause problems. Okay, so yeah, in the 15 round, it's gonna be like a half moon position. These magazines are sharp. Okay, like when you're loading these up, there's a couple of times where, like, I think I've actually cut myself. Like we're talking way back, like when I first started shooting this. As you can see, these magazines, you know, they show some good wear on them. Initially, when I bought this gun, I was kind of like going back and forth between, hey, did I want this to be like my primary training gun, or did I want the Glock 17 to be my primary training gun? Initially, I was leaning more towards this one because at the time, I was not fully comfortable with the concept of carrying a around the chamber on a striker-fired gun, and that's a me problem, right? And that's basically just because I did not understand, okay, the internal safety features of the Glock striker-fired gun. It wasn't until I actually started building these myself that I understood how the internal safety worked. Okay. And then, you know, that I started feeling a lot more comfortable once I knew exactly how it worked. And then I went like 100% I'm carrying Glocks. Okay. But yeah, initially I felt a lot more comfortable with the double action, single action design of the Beretta 92. So for those of you not familiar with this, hold on, let me just point this camera down a little bit more. There you go. For those not familiar with this, so you put the magazine in, you run your slide, right? And what happens is when you run the slide, basically your hammer is in the rear position, and then there's a decocker here, right? It's on both sides. So you go down, right? When you go down, that basically, it drops the hammer, but it puts the gun on safe. So now you have to push up in order to basically get the, you know, to engage your trigger, okay? So that's how the Beretta double action, single action works. Now, one of the issues that I found early on when training with this gun is if you run the slide to put the gun into battery, it's really easy to put the safety on and you've got a dead trigger, right? So you go like this, you think that you got, you know, you're active and you're pulling the trigger and the gun's not working because you accidentally engaged the safety, okay? So there is an aftermarket kit that you can buy where basically it removes the safety, so when you push it down, it just automatically pops up. If you were going to carry the gun, I would definitely recommend it. Right? The way this gun is, the way, I don't want to say the way it's intended to be shot, but the way that Beretta 92 guys shoot this gun is they'll shoot this with the thumb up, right? Because if the safety is engaged, let me get behind the camera. If the safety is engaged, if you shoot this with your thumb up, you're going to feel it, okay? And you're going to know that, hey, my safety is engaged. So you shoot this with your thumb up so that you know that, that's how you know that your safety is, you know, because if this is in the down position, right, now I can feel it right there, okay? So yeah, you shoot this with your thumb up. This is opposite of the 1911. With the 1911, you want to ride your thumb on top of the thumb safety so that you know that it's been disengaged. Well, this you go thumb up so that you know that your safety has been disengaged. If you watch some of the early Steven Seagal movies, you know that guy used to shoot with both thumbs up, okay, which kind of looked weird, but that's where I think it kind of carried over from. You know, he probably had trained on Beretta 90, or somebody had trained him on Beretta 92s with the thumb up, and you know, of course, him being primarily an actor, he just carried that over to all guns that he shot, right? But that's why you shoot with the thumb up, to make sure that safety is off. Okay, so that's one of my main issues that I had with the Beretta 92. There's a lot of time when I would run the slide, the safety would get, when you know, the safety would end up being activated, the gun wouldn't shoot. The Beretta 92 gives you a really large slide release, like compared to Glocks, right? So it's really, it was never meant for you to run the slide. Rather, it was meant for you to hit this gigantic paddle there to put the gun into battery. Okay, so that's the better way, I think, to, if you're like a Beretta 92 guy, if you want to, you know, commit to this gun, that's how I think you want to put this gun into battery, using the slide release, right? Because this is a true slide release. It's not just a slide catch. The reason why I don't like to use it for my personal training is because I want to use a system that works for all guns. So that doesn't work really good on Glocks, because Glocks, the slide release is really thin. So if your hands are wet or sweaty, that's gonna slip. So I'd rather just hook it from the, you know, grab the optic really, and that's how I put this gun into battery. Okay, so yeah, that's, you know, just again, one of the things to be aware of with this Beretta 92 design. One of the things with the Beretta 92, if you notice here, it has a gigantic window. Okay, so that's a big cut. So these guys made the window cut like a thing before, like you know, like with a lot of these aftermarket Glocks, right? You see how I got the cuts here. Okay, well, that tends to be like a lint trap for me. I've never had the gun jam up from that, but I mean, this is good for a carry gun. It's okay for a carry gun, rather. I wouldn't want to take this into a combat zone where it might get like dust and dirt and mud in there. You know, that's going to put like all sorts of debris in there. But if you think that's bad, Beretta 92, which was intended to be a combat gun, you've got a gigantic window over here. And if you look over here, you can see how much space you got in there, right? So if you imagine if you're like in a desert, or you're in, you know, in a dirty environment, muddy environment, you're gonna get a lot of debris that fall in there. Like actually, I can actually see daylight over here when I look through it. Okay, so that's one of the things to be aware of with these large window cuts. And I think one of the issues that you know, one of the reasons why in combat scenarios the Beretta 92 ended up giving some people problems. Okay. Now, one of the things that, you know, while I was doing this, if you notice that it's really nice over here for pinching this back, if you want to look at it. That's really convenient. I do like this cut that they have over here. Okay, so that is nice. But one of the things that's also really important to know, one of the things that makes the Beretta 92 stand out is that it is not a tilt barrel design, right? So with Glocks, basically the barrel, when you lock the gun open, right, the barrel drops, right, and then it comes up to lock. Okay, with the Beretta 92, it doesn't do that. Okay, it doesn't have a tilt barrel locking system. It's not a fixed barrel, right? It does move a little bit, but it has a locking block. So if you look over here, you see those two hooks that basically come up. You know, see how they drop and then come up. So those two hooks come up, and they provide extra resistance to slow down the action, to make sure that the bullet leaves the barrel before the breech opens. Okay, so the basic idea is that you got these two hooks that come up here, back of the barrel, and basically when the gun fires, it pushes on those hooks to cause that extra resistance to basically slow down the timing. Okay. Now, I mean, this gun here, I think maybe has about 2,000 rounds on it. The reason is because I quickly went over to using a Glock. I'll explain why in a little bit. But one of the issues was that locking block. I believe it's rated. The locking block, I believe, is factory rated for 5,000 rounds. A lot of people say, "Hey, you'll get 10,000, you get 20,000 rounds out of it." And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna run this locking block until it stops working. Okay, but like in the military, when they were using this in the military, people weren't paying attention to that, so that locking block was not changed when it was supposed to. It probably wasn't changed at 5,000. It probably wasn't changed at even 20,000. They just kept running it until it stopped working, and then they said, "Hey, the gun's got reliability problems." Okay, so that's one of the issues with the Beretta design. That locking block is something that wears out, and that's an important part of the gun. As far as the takedown, very interesting. There's a button on this side, so you push the button here. Then when you push the button here, you flip this down over here, and you don't. It's not like a Glock where you got to release the. The hammer can be in the rear position wherever. If you push here and then push down with your thumb here, that comes off. And if you guys ever saw the first Lethal, I think it was the first Lethal Weapon movie, one of the Lethal Weapon movies, where Mel Gibson is fighting some Kung Fu guy, or he's pointing his gun at some karate guy or Kung Fu guy, wherever he was, and he disables the gun. He had a Beretta 92. He disables the gun by reaching up, putting his finger here, and flipping that down with the thumb, and he took the slide off. And Mel Gibson was sitting there looking at him like kind of dumbfounded. But yeah, that's the. Oh, I forgot to lock it. That's the Beretta 92 design. So anyway, let's talk about actually shooting this gun. I mean, the grips are a bit thick. I mean, not if you're used to shooting like Glock 17, it's not going to be that different, but they are quite thick. It's a double stack gun. Let's talk about the double action, single action. And like I said, initially, when I first got into guns, and I got into guns late in life, I was already like in my mid-30s. Initially, I felt a lot more comfortable with carrying a gun that I could carry with the hammer down, and basically after, I could fire it with the hammer down, and then after the first shot, the hammer would basically set back, and now I have a light trigger pull. So I kind of liked that idea initially. In practice, what happens is that you kind of forget that the first shot's going to be a long, hard pull, right? Let's do it this way. Forget that first shot is a long, hard pull, and then after the first shot, you got a really short pull, and in practice, it surprises you. Where a lot of times you come out of holster, right? You come out of holster and you squeeze it, and like, oh shit, well, it's not working. Oh shit, I got to squeeze this back all the way. So that's happened a bunch of times. And then what happens is after you fire that first shot where you squeeze it back all the way, and then the hammer sets back, right? It's cocked now. Then when you go to shoot the second shot, now because you're used to that first shot that's hard, now you jerk the gun, or you fire the gun before you actually intend to fire it as you're lining up your sights, because of that back and forth from the hard pull to the soft pull. Okay, so that's one of the things that I found in practice. Now yes, can you train it out? Yes, with lots of training, you can get comfortable with it. But it's also really easy to forget. Now, keep in mind, when I started training with this Beretta 92, I could shoot almost every day. And still, I could train with this gun for, like 5 days straight, put it down for a week, right? Maybe shoot some other guns, right? And then come back to it, and I kind of forgot. Okay, so that's something that's going to happen. That, especially if you're shooting other guns, when you come back to this, you're going to kind of forget. So that's one of the issues I ran into it with that double action, single action, and then coupled with when I would run the slide, I would accidentally put the safety on. I said, this is not a great option. And by the way, this gun is big and heavy for everyday carry, right? It's a full-size frame. One of the guns that I experimented with was the Beretta Thunder, okay, which is a 380 version, right? 380 version, you know, version of this gun with the double action, single action. It functions almost exactly the same, except it was extremely unreliable. A couple of hundred rounds in, and the trigger bar, or basically, the trigger would like permanently like it would, you know, I would have a dead trigger. Sent it in, they sent it back. It worked for maybe a few hundred rounds, and then it broke again. So I had a problem with the trigger mechanism and how it was working, and I said, okay, this Beretta Thunder sucks. Got rid of that. Never had the problem with the Beretta 90, with the Beretta 92, or the M9 as the military calls it. Never had that problem. I guess that when you upsize, when you make the parts bigger, they tend to be more reliable. So this has been a very reliable gun for me. Like I said, I'm only into it for maybe about 3,000 rounds, even though it's one of my earliest guns. Reason why I moved away from it is because I found in practice, because of that long hard pull, aside from having accuracy issues, because first shot was a long hard pull and then adjusting to the short pull. So what would happen is, first shot, I'm like, you know, a lot of times I would forget how hard I gotta pull it, and then when I would go to shoot the second shot, I'm like rolling the gun forward. But aside from that, the other issue is because of that long hard pull, if you're shooting like 200, 300 rounds, your finger does get tired, okay? So your finger's gonna get tired. If you're doing like 3-shot drills where you're going to the like decocking and going into the holster, your finger's gonna start getting tired. The other thing that I noticed when I was training people is, aside from what happened is, a lot of times they would forget to decock it, and they would go to holster this with the hammer in the rear position, right? Because they would forget to decock it, and that is a safety issue because this gun isn't meant to be holstered with the hammer back. It's not a 1911. So I'm like, you know what? This double action, single action is not actually making people safer, okay? You know, and then I said, hey, you know what? Let's just go with the Glock. That's a lot less work. A lot, you know, the training is easier, and at least with that, I know how the gun is going into the holster every single time, rather than sometimes it's decocked, sometimes the hammer's back. You know, this way, when I'm training people, I know exactly what's going into the holster. They know exactly what's going into the holster. They know what to expect in terms of, you know, when they come out of the holster, trigger pull, just a lot easier. Okay, so that's why I went to the Glock system. As far as the sights on this, sights are horrible. Okay, I did shoot this yesterday. I actually made a video. I did a video yesterday, and the zoom was just off, so I'm kind of redoing the video. But the sights are very low, and they had like a white dot in the front that actually faded out, and I kind of painted. So yeah, I mean, I shot this yesterday after having not shot it for a while, and I mean, having a Glock, the Glock sights are better. Okay, like even the factory cheap sights on the Glock, I think, are easier to work with. And then with the True Glow sights that I have on my Glocks, like if you're going to use iron sights, way better. And then of course the red dot on the pistol is ideal. That's the best thing. So yeah, I mean, I really don't like these sights. They're very low, hard to see in the dot in the dark. They're fixed to the gun, so I can't change them like I did with the Glock. Okay, now I'm sure that, remember, this gun's now about 15, 17 years old. I am sure that the newer versions come with better sights, or you can change the sights, you know. So this is what this is, you know. So anyway, let's fire this. So let's open. So like I said, it comes with 15 round magazines. We can decock it from the holster. So we're gonna do 3-shot drills at 17 yards there, right, about 50 feet, and we're gonna. So the first shot's gonna be double action, and then the 2 shots after that are gonna be single action. We're gonna decock, go back in the holster. Okay, the draw stroke is hand goes on your chest, come up, pull, rotate, join, extend, find your sights, take a shot, and then go back in the holster the same way. Detox, back in the holster. Yeah, those sights are like I'm searching for them. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely searching for those sights, trying to line them up to make sure they're not easy sights to work with. Okay. Let's go to 30 yards. Let's see how this camera. Let's see where I gotta stand. I'll stand over here. So we're going to shoot 30 yards over there. Right, pretty good at 30 yards with these shitty sights. Let's do the mag change. So again, with this gun, you would prefer not to run the slide. You want to basically hit this big paddle over here, put the gun into into battery. With this now, I'm gonna shoot it straight from single action. Let's see how I do. At 50 yards. 50 yards now. One out of 15 at 50 yards. Yesterday I was getting 2 out of 15, so let's shoot the Glock 43, right? So we got a shorter barrel, but we got a red dot on this. Only 7 rounds. Again, 50 yards. Yesterday I got 3. I was shooting better yesterday. Yes, but anyway, I got 1 with this, 1 with that, and obviously there's a smaller gun. So yeah, I mean, I would 100%. I'd rather be shooting a red dot on a smaller gun than iron sights, even on a bigger gun. But anyway, that's how that is. But so this is like one of those guns that like I would not sell. Like I said, it was one of my first guns. Now, one of the things that, and I actually noticed this yesterday when I was shooting, because this is so open over here, it gets, like I just fired, what, 30 rounds? And this gets hot. So yesterday I shot 45 rounds, and it was just a little bit hotter. So once you start shooting this thing, the barrel is so exposed. I guess it cools down a lot faster too, but it's so exposed that it's really easy to, I mean, it's not that hot right now, but it's really easy for this to get uncomfortably hot if you're handling this gun. Whereas with this gun over here, even with the window cuts, there's a lot more slide there. So again, one of those things to be aware of with this style, because this is like the largest window cut I think I've ever seen on a Beretta 9.2. Actually, let me do this. Let me take this apart for a second. Oops. Oh, so by the way, this is this came with a plastic guide rod. So what happened with this is one time, it was in the winter, it was like raining and it was cold, so the gun got all wet. And I didn't want it to freeze overnight, so what I did is I put it in front of a torpedo heater, not in the fire, but like in front of it, and the plastic guide rod like took a slight bend, and it was giving me resistance and jamming the gun up. So that's why I ended up buying this copper guide rod. So yeah, if you've got one with the plastic guide rod, don't try to dry the gun in front of a torpedo heater. Let's see. Let's get this guy out. Okay. Guys, a closer look at the slide. What I wanted to show you was the locking block. So that's the barrel, and that's the locking block over there, and that's the two hooks over here that come up and create that resistance. I believe that slides out. I don't want to do it outdoors, but I believe that if you push it that way, it slides out. I haven't opened this up in a long time. Hold on. There's like a little. Actually, that needs to get pushed back in order for the locking block to come up. Oh, there it is. I can pull it back like that. So that's interesting how this. So yeah, this is a unique feature of the Beretta 92, that locking block. And like I said, I think Beretta recommends that you change this every 5,000 rounds, although most people won't. I won't. But yeah, this is the thing that makes the Beretta 92 different. All right, let me put this sucker back together. Oh, and while I got the gun open, let's see if I can show you guys the frame. There's the frame. So it has like the trigger, it's got like a mechanical trigger that comes all the way back here. You can see this lever over here. So on the Burst of Thunder, which has the same design, see how that comes back? I think that this is, this was a problem on the Burst of Thunder. Same design, had that same bar that would come back, but it would, it broke twice, and I got rid of the gun. But let's get this back together. So, like, back when I first got into the guns, the Beretta 92 was like people were a lot more familiar with the double action, single action design. Nowadays, I'll run into people at gun ranges, and like I'll mention double action, single action, and like they've never shot it. You know, they may have heard it. I've actually run into people that have never heard of double action, single action. They just assume everything is striker fired. There we go. All right, so put it together, flip that up. So I believe this predates the Glock by a few years. Quite a few years, I believe. So the takedown on this, like compared to like 1911s, was like a godsend. Like how easy you could take this apart. So Beretta M9. So anyway, drop some comments. Let me know if you shot this, how you like the gun, or if you hate the gun, or what your experience with this Beretta 92 is. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to y'all soon.